Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Livingston with Want Leverage Communications, a public relations and LinkedIn consultancy. And I'm delighted to be here with you again today for another episode of PR Patter, my semi-weekly show where I chat with the amazing people from across my public relations and marketing network. If you like what you see today, please visit my website at wantleverage.com and download Make Your C-Suite Stand Out on LinkedIn, which is a free tip sheet with some great tips and takeaways that you can begin using immediately in your social media and public relations work. I'm delighted today to welcome my guest, David Title. David, where are you? I guess he'll be right back. David is a partner at Bravo Media, an experiential communications firm fusing strategy, design, and production to drive meaningful engagement. David spent time working in feature film, television, and web series development before joining Bravo in 2009. And he lives in Hell's Kitchen in New York City with his wife and daughter. His biggest lesson from 15 years of event development is that no matter what the client says they want, what they really want is a photo booth. I love that. And we're just waiting for David to rejoin us here. Here we go. Okay, he's back. Hey, David, you're back.
Sorry about that.
No problem, no problem.
We just went down the entire studio, so we are hot spotting for you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I'm great. I'm really glad that you're back with me. I just introduced you. So maybe you could tell us first, David. I know you're now a partner of Bravo Media, but maybe you could tell us a little bit more about your backstory and how you got to Bravo and this part of your career.
Yeah. So way back in my life, all my formal education and everything was really in theater. That was my first love and where I kind of did my schooling and my early career in developing and directing mostly new playwright work and things like that. And then followed some of my writer friends into the feature film world during kind of the heart of the indie film scene in New York City, and was largely doing that when YouTube launched in sort of like 05, 06 or something like that, and had the opportunity to help create what then was a new media incubator. And we got to develop and produce some of the first web series and original content that was a time when kind of every studio and every network wanted their kind of digital department, and there was Fox Atomic, and God, everyone had a thing, and there's sites like Super Deluxe, and yeah, so we made all that kind of content, and then I ended up hooking up with the founders at Bravo, and who were working with a small soundstage and kind of a small crew, and there was this transition happening from traditional filmmaking and distribution to this whole new digital stream where I could produce the content and I could deliver the content and I could distribute the content all in this whole new way. And it opened up this massive new marketplace where every company in the world that previously wasn't really using video or animation as a tool in their general, there was industrials and sort of training videos that you shot on VHS or beta.
Well, that sounds so ancient now.
I know, but it's wildly, it's not that long ago. It all happened very, very quickly. And So you had this moment where this incredibly powerful medium of video and animation, which previously, unless you were, buying television time or I don't know, sending your clients DVDs or videotapes or something, you weren't using it. It was, you had your other channels for marketing, for sales, for communications, all those things. And then all of a sudden, everyone could start using this. And we initially developed services around that new medium and helping all sorts of companies develop their very first homepage videos, their first YouTube content. We're talking, '07, '08. So Facebook had just launched, but there's no Instagram yet. There's no, but definitely no TikTok, no Snap. But it really developed into the world of what became known as kind of explainer videos and all the other video content that brands and companies across, there's no specific vertical. It just became another communications channel. The reason that it had been so expensive and you could charge so much to show it to people was that it's a really powerful tool. And now everybody had it. But then that kind of marketplace started to get pretty saturated and it became very price-based, and there was a lot of offshore kind of solutions that were pretty good. And at Bravo, we didn't want to become kind of a high volume, low cost, price per pound sort of operation. But early on, we developed relationships with folks in pharmaceuticals and financial services, and these sort of, what we always called them internally in a loving way, sort of these beige kind of companies. And that were really excited. They had this new tool, and now things were looking a little more exciting on their website. And we started to talk to them about trade shows and conferences. And like, well, what could we do here that would be more interesting and more exciting? And that brought us into bringing our first developers in-house, so we could originally back then do some little touch screen things. And
right.
And then we saw when we had the creative animators and video producers, and then these creative technologists, and that was a world that was just starting to get going and learning what they were playing with. And once we brought them all together, we said, oh, there's like kind of all this cool stuff we can do now. And I still remember I was having a meeting with sort of like a general intro chat with somebody, and was sort of explaining what we were doing in a pretty bad way. And they said, oh, so you do experiential marketing? I was like,
bingo.
Yes, that is what we do. Holy moly, that's what we do. And this is a while back, so it wasn't sort of just it wasn't as much of a buzzword at the time yet, but it really encompassed kind of what we were doing, and really doing it from a production first mindset more than maybe what a traditional creative agency might come at it from. We always were building and making, and everything we did kind of began and ended around that process of actually delivering the experience. And so we've spent a number of years working with, both agencies, supporting agencies with mostly consumer-facing brands and things like that, and then working directly with a lot of B2B companies on initially and foundationally on event-related things, interactive activations, large format displays. We love projection and projection mapping because it's big and fun and engaging. And
you mean like at trade events?
Yep, at trade shows, developing interactive activations for booths, developing enhanced presentations for conferences, and really building this set of capabilities around how to both, creatively and then functionally and literally create these real world, real-time experiences, and that deliver, some result that the client is looking for, whether that's, whether it's branding or it's, I want to build a list of people doing something. Years ago, we developed a in-house belief that is one of the truer things I know around the event world, which goes, no matter what the client says they want, what they really want is a photo booth. And but what we've come to learn over the years, even though there's a lot of truth in that, what it really is there's a desire in almost all sort of event activations, and that might be a press event or a pop-up or a conference, or it's at the end of the day, the stakeholders are often trying to engender this idea of come, create, share. And a photo booth is sort of the perfect, way to describe that. But it's also maybe not the most exciting, dynamic thing one can do. And
well, and it's
especially
also, it's been there, you've been there, done that already with a photo booth.
right. So we've realized a lot of our projects, especially in the along that spectrum of events, has to do with helping to create moments that foster that notion of come, create, and share. And so that was largely what we were doing. And then, 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that, the built environment started to get a lot more digital, and people started putting up a lot more screens and LEDs and sensors, and CMS companies were talking about all the things you could do, and once you had them in place, and we started to realize that a lot of the work we've been doing around events and activations was becoming really relevant for various built environments, whether that was restaurants and nightclubs or corporate environments or retail environments. All of this stuff was going in, and into places where we've come to really realize once it's in and up, nobody's in charge. And there's this huge problem, this massive day two problem with digital display, especially in corporate environments, where there's this huge investment and these beautiful screens are put in and all the hardware is put in and all the back-end services are put in. And there's some great looking stuff on day one. And then it's day two and no one notices the screens anymore. They're not doing whatever job they were put in there to do in the first place, or more likely there was no strategy in place for what they were supposed to do over time, because now you've put a broadcast network into your offices. You have to feed that all the time. These aren't motivational posters that go up on the wall, and they're not TVs that you just turn the channel and it's CNN. These are 30 by 20.9 high-res LED displays that need real content and real meaning and real purpose. And so a lot of what we've been working on lately is working with corporate partners on developing strategies and producing content and templates and techniques for making those displays meaningful and relevant over time, and so that there's a real ROI
so there's
on
more
that.
value, right? There's more value in it for them.
Yeah, and there's a purpose to it, and it does something for them. And all of this has kind of gotten us to this point where when we look at all of the stuff that we're doing from a little of a step back, everything we're doing is around sort of communications. And the idea of corporate communications has this kind of preset notion of what that includes. But the truth is, if we look at corporate communications, or we look at brand communications, or we look at advertising, the experiential piece of that now, the manners in which, and we kind of look at that, experiential is really about the real world, real time things that are happening. And whether those are events, or those are displays in your space, or those are conferences, or those are sales presentations, or those are whether it's something you're using to generate press or to encourage
like something
attention
in Times Square, or
right. So there is a real value, right? So when an agency comes up with a concept, or a brand, or a company comes up with a concept to do a big stunning. Like, why would they spend all that money to do that one day thing? Who was there? And it's, of course, it's not about who was there on the day. It's about that whole behind the scenes package that you build and all the content that comes out of that and all the reaction videos that get taken and redistributed and the press that writes about it. And that's experiential communications. And we're finding more and more that this is kind of the new kid on the block in a lot of ways, and it gets siloed or it doesn't get integrated across all the other businesses within an organization, and where experiential touches those pieces, and if you're thinking about it holistically, how they all support each other.
Right, because that's how the whole, in aggregate, that's how it makes a lasting impact.
Absolutely. And there's all these wonderful tools and technologies that you can be taking advantage of, but you need partners to help you do that. When we're working with a wonderful client that just moved into brand new offices on 6th Avenue, bought these beautiful Sony displays, and then didn't know really what they were going to do on them or what to do with them. And we went through this wonderful discovery phase to really talk about what they were there for and what did they want to do. And then, of course, they do securities. I cannot explain what that is, but it's financial. And they're very smart, and they certainly have opinions, but they don't have anyone in their organization that can make beautiful 3D welcome messages across a 3200 by 1600 display. And so it's also about having the partners that actually know how to physically produce the assets that become part of the experiential element of all of those other things that you're doing, whether that's PR or that's recruiting or that's events or that's and then when we start to think about it that way, and we're able to, if we're able to create a really cool interactive experience at a trade show, hey, maybe there's a way that can be scaled down and used at recruiting at college fairs, which are always a disaster and terrible and make
So
you
you
wonder
kind
why
of have to
anybody
get
tries.
everybody across the organization involved in some way so that there's this cohesive message that's going out.
I think that is when it's most effective.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think so far what we found is we were able to kind of start somewhere, whether that's, again, whether we're talking about digital display and corporate environment, and then being able to say, hey, how does this extend to when you go to a conference? What's your content and what's your experience, or the reverse? So there are different ways into those discussions, but the more that it becomes a holistic approach and not just the siloed kind of thing, the more value there is for the organization.
I have a little bit of a tangent to go on. I'm a theater junkie, and I went last night to see Safe House at St. Anne's Warehouse, which is in Dumbo in Brooklyn, kind of an experimental theater. And they use a lot of projections, and I'm actually finding that so many of the shows I'm seeing lately a lot of them have projections in them. Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, I mean, projection on Broadway's become a really heavily used. It's been there in various forms for a while, but on the hardware side, the projectors themselves transitioned from what was a lamp-based technology, which meant they were very hot and very loud and hard to manage, to laser and LED-based systems, which are super stable and smaller and quiet, and so they make them much more useful in a theatrical space. But we're also, we're just finishing our 4th installation of a permanent projection display within a corporate lobby space. So projectors are being used in long-term display. Again, across, we've done a number of. We have a relationship with the Tao nightclub group, and do these very cool projections over murals that they have painted.
Nice. So it creates all this wonderful texture.
It's, again, if you're putting up display, one has to think one of the goals is that people look at it, because otherwise just don't put anything there. And so, engagement is the first thing. I've got to get you to engage. I've got to get you to look. And when done properly, projection mapping offers a way to create these sort of optical illusions. And our brains are just love optical illusions. We love that sort of friction of that cognitive dissonance of seeing it, knowing it's there, but not knowing how it's there. Yeah. And so projection offers a great way to hit that. And then if that content is then the right content and it's relevant and meaningful, now you got my attention, and you can really deliver that message.
Awesome. So what kind of vendors and partners need to engage to modernize corporate communications? What would you say about that?
Well, I think it's interesting. We're trying to figure that out a bit ourselves. One of the fascinating things as we try to find clients to work with that we know are out there that need our help in, on that sort of day two digital display, for instance, there are almost no companies that have somebody who's actually, that's their job, to manage digital display. And when you dig in, sometimes it'll be facilities, sometimes it'll be IT, sometimes it'll be comms, sometimes it'll be marketing, sometimes, it's none of the above. But it's so new. And experiential as an idea is so new that finding the right stakeholders is one of the challenges. But I do think it really does seem to start on the kind of the client side around discussions around marketing and corporate communications, and it kind of spills out from there. On the other side, we're really trying to build this network of partners that includes AV integrators and AV consultants, that includes PR agencies and advertising agencies that are already working directly with these clients and can really enhance what's possible by better incorporating this. And we're seeing it, 15 years or 20 years ago, PR was not about experiential, today it is a huge piece of what we just in terms of the inbound that we get from PR agencies, the asks that we're getting sound an awful lot like the stuff that we get from an NVE or from a a traditional experiential agency. So there's a lot of this going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, because I work in public relations, and the public relations umbrella has just widened so much with digital media, with the advancement of digital media, and now that includes experiential marketing for sure.
Yeah, it's we one of the things we found that we're a
great partner.
Well, I think for us the best partners are folks that are really interested in developing these broader relationships and integrating services together. We found a lot of cross benefit when we are working, instead of being just a executional partner to agencies, to be a conceptual partner to them, and to be a resource to folks across that space, so that they can really understand what's possible and get that to their clients, because they're the trusted partners right now, and we want to be a part of that circle. We think we have a lot to offer to that circle, and in some cases the best way for us to get that message across to those end stakeholders is through those existing trusted partners, whether those are the integrators and the hardware folks, or it's the agents and consultants. Those are really great. But on the corporate side and on the end user side, it's wonderful to speak to folks across these departments who are in these positions where they have a wide set of responsibilities, and we love to help them understand where experiential can play into that and where it can really
Yeah.
have an impact.
Tell us also if you could share some example. I mean, you've been talking about some of your work, but tell us, maybe you can describe some recent examples of things that you've done.
Sure. So on the event side, we're doing final testing right now because it's a classic. So we're working on an AI infused photo-esque experience, which is part of a larger event where people are being actually turned into the cover star of a business magazine with
Cool.
a beautiful business casual headshot and headlines that are customized based on a questionnaire. It gives a really nice takeaway. It's part of that come create share continuum. Allows the client to talk a little bit about AI. Again, one of the things we really help to do with experiential is bring these sometimes esoteric or conceptual ideas into a concrete world and make it easier for that stakeholder to speak to them in a more compelling way. So, a lot of the folks that we're working with, for obvious reasons, want to be able to talk about how their company is using AI or what they're doing with AI or how AI is impacting it. So, by developing an activation that utilizes AI in a really visible and definable way, it then works as a really nice entry point for that stakeholder to branch out from there.
Oh boy, what a great thing for sharing on social.
Yep, and got to have that shareable asset.
Yeah.
And I think it is, I think I think the Instagrammable set is something we're kind of past, just standing in front of the same thing. So personalization and making something that I'm able to play a hand in a role in creating so that it makes it somehow mine is a big part of that process. So that it has some meaning. Otherwise, you're just handing out squishy balls.
Right. Exactly.
And enough with the
And who
squishy
needs
balls.
more of those?
My kid likes them, I guess. Like it's
Right.
fun, but I don't think she's buying the product that's on there.
No.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff, and then we are we're kicking off another very large corporate display project where for really only the second time now we're actually have been able to be brought in prior to actual final construction. So we are working with all teams together so that everyone understands what the content demands are going to be, so that all the hardware and all the software is able to support that, instead of what we're often forced to do and kind of reverse engineer that process. So, uh, on on that side of things, it's really it's really effective and really powerful when uh, if folks are doing a large install, or they're moving into a new space, or building out a new space, or adding signage, to really be thinking about that content piece and who that partner is going to be over time. Because once those things are up on the walls and working, that integrator's gone. Your CMS provider is going to tell you that it all works right. You just got to put that content in. That's the C in CMS. And you're going to be left to manage it. And uh, we've yet to find a company that's able to do that internally.
Really interesting. Interesting. So what are the steps that companies can take to get started on the experiential path?
I mean, honestly, I think the first thing, it really is identifying partners that can help you in the same way that you
Right.
found your
Okay.
partners for those other aspects of your business. Whether that's your PR or your social or your, all of these other business building partners that you work with. And, we're certainly, there are not a lot of shops doing specifically what we're doing, but there are other shops doing that. And there are other shops doing things like what we do. But think about the areas that you really want to be successful in, and do you have the people in your circle right now that are going to be able to really help you facilitate that, and finding those resources and getting them around you. making a game plan, because
Yeah.
then things can really start to happen.
David, this has been such a great conversation. I can't thank you enough for joining me today. And it was good to catch up as well. How can people get in touch with you?
I have a lot of fun on LinkedIn, so I would love people to reach out to me there. And then, uh,
It's just slip.
oh, sorry, I was gonna say I have a lot of fun on LinkedIn. I love folks to
Great.
reach out to me on
Good.
there and connect. And our website is bravomedia.com. And yeah, be great to chat with folks.
That's fantastic. Okay, everyone else, thank you so much for joining us on PR Patter. If you like what you saw today, please visit my website at wantleverage.com and download Make Your C-Suite Stand Out on LinkedIn. I'm also reachable on LinkedIn, and Julie at wantleverage.com. And I hope I'll see you next time on PR Patter. Thanks so much, David.